Imagine a world in which our Social Security income is no longer taxed. Would that change when you claim Social Security? Would you regret claiming it early or holding on? What will that do to the strategies of Social Security timing? That's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to say that completely tax-free Social Security income would be quite a retirement plan game changer. It would change my industry slightly, maybe even significantly. It would change my guidance for a lot of people. And I don't know if you've thought about it, but it may be a reality sooner than you think. Let me bring in my co-host, Tony Shore. Tony, welcome to the show. Can you imagine a world in which all Social Security income is tax-free? Am I
That
just
would
making
be
this up?
that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I would like my Social Security to be tax-free. Yes.
And it's not a fantasy anymore. There's been talk of this. There has.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they're talking about making Social Security tax-free at any level. I don't think it'll pass.
You don't think it'll pass Congress?
I don't. Although it benefits the upper middle class and up, so maybe it'll pass. They seem to be in a mode where they're giving a lot of tax benefits to corporations and to maybe the wealthier. So I know they're planning a lot of tax cuts that would help those people. So it might go through. It might. Of course, on the other hand, they're cutting the current bill that's going through that got passed by one branch. It cuts Medicaid, which I'm concerned about even more than Social Security. But yes, I would love to see them remove the tax from Social Security.
Okay. Is that are you drinking a can of cynicism there? 'Cause I sense
Well,
it
it's the
rooted in some-
government. Of course I'm cynical about what they'll actually accomplish, and it's up in the air. But you're right. They're floating the idea of cutting all taxes to Social Security, which really Social Security shouldn't be taxed. I agree with doing that, Dan. Don't get me wrong.
Well, let's imagine. Well, let's before we get into how this changes things, because I think it does, and I think it's important for people to consider this.
Yes,
it's not a pipe dream, but let's just refresh everybody on how this is taxed. Right now, the 50% threshold means half of your Social Security benefits is subject to tax if you meet the provisional income, which those levels were set in 1984.
Right.
25,000 for a single person, 32,000 for married filing jointly. What is provisional income? Provisional income is all your income plus half of your Social Security income. So, 32,000 is not very high in today's standards.
That's true. That's a good point.
That's the 50%. The 85% threshold was set in 1994, 10 years later, and that is set at 34,000 for a single person, 44,000 married filing jointly. So that means up to 85% of your benefits is taxed. Social Security income is taxable if your provisional income is above.
They should at least raise those numbers.
Well, let's talk about that. Eliminating taxes across the board is pretty straightforward. Like, okay, no one pays taxes on Social Security. But what if we just simply took the law as it stands and added an index to inflation to it? You index it those 1984 and 1994 levels,
which are ridiculous at this point.
Right. And so I did some math. So this isn't 100% accurate. I didn't see this floated out there. This is just me coming up with some numbers. So caveat on that. I use CPI, and then there's a 10-year gap. So if you index the 94 numbers, you'll actually wind up with a lower number than the 84. So it's like that. So I tried to build in the difference, the gap between those two. But here's the numbers I came up with just the CPI numbers, which is less than 4% inflation. A single person, the 50% threshold would start at 79,000 of provisional income and 108,000 provisional income for 85% to be taxed. For a married couple filing jointly, their taxable Social Security would start at 101,000 of provisional income, and 139 would be at the 85%. Again, 15% is never taxed. So those numbers now look a lot more reasonable.
Yeah, they do.
And so let's just go with the married couple, 101 provisional. Let's say they have 40,000 of income plus they have 60,000 of Social Security income. So they have 100,000 of income, but their provisional income, remember, it only counts half. Their provisional income would be 70,000. So currently, today, if someone was in that situation where they had 60,000, a married couple, 60,000 of Social Security income and 40,000 of IRA distributions, 85% of their Social Security benefit would be subject to tax. But in this scenario, when you just index through inflation, they wouldn't pay tax at all on their Social Security. So instead of saying eliminate tax on Social Security, which is pretty like straightforward, there's no guessing. I like simplicity, and I love the idea of no taxes. If you just took it and said, I think an easier pitch from Trump would be, let's just index it to inflation, because everyone can get behind that, and the wealthy, in quotes, would still have to pay tax on Social Security income.
Right. Or you could simplify, you could do a compromise that's simpler than what you've come up with here. And you could say everyone who has a provisional income of more than $100,000 pays 50%.
Right.
Period.
Something like that. Right.
Period. No steps. Just everyone over this threshold pays 50% taxes. The other people don't pay any, and that 50% is tax-free. So I would like to see either no taxes or something like that. This is great, though. I mean, obviously, this is much better. What you've come up with makes sense, and it's a lot better than what we have now, which is a lot of people are paying 85% on their taxes. And it should be, I would love to see the states stop taxing Social Security, the states that do.
Florida doesn't. Tennessee doesn't. Work your way down from Minnesota, Tony.
Right.
You gotta leave your state problems there. I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Florida. I know those three don't.
Yeah, just
I'm pretty sure that they don't.
Go west. Go southwest, Tony. So let's shift gears now. So let's imagine that one of these happened. Either the reduction of taxes with the cost of living increase, or index to inflation,
sure,
or a complete elimination, which is a reasonable scenario now. It's not pipe dream anymore.
It's not a pipe dream because they're I think the bill has been authored. It hasn't been voted on.
Right. Yeah. So I see a world where this could happen. I don't like to work on hypotheticals, although that's what I do all day with, because no one knows what's going to happen to them, how long you're going to live, so on and so forth.
Sure.
But if they just eliminate the taxes, does that alone change what people should do when it comes to when they claim Social Security? Do you think that it would impact it? I'm putting you on the spot. I know this is a pretty complex question.
It would impact it because, maybe as part of the calculation, you have to consider taxes. Like, okay, if I let it roll up to 70 before I claim, and I claim at 70, I'm getting this much bigger check each month. But if I'm getting that bigger check, I look at my other income, my provisional income, and say, wow, I'm going to be paying 85% of taxes instead of 0. Maybe it makes sense just to take it at my full retirement age or earlier. So it does affect the taxable aspect of Social Security changes when you file. It should actually, you should consider it. Most people don't, but I know you do. You would for your clients, right?
Yeah, it's an advanced consideration. People don't do tax planning by nature.
Right.
They want to avoid it, but the decision to take Social Security is more focused on what do I need now? What are my income needs?
Yeah, people aren't looking, 5-10 years down the road and figuring out tax implications. Right. Most people.
And so I'll get so my math and thinking about this suggests that delaying is even more favorable now.
Yes.
Particularly for people who have the ability to delay. So if you are in a situation where you're like, well,
I've got so much, I've got a pension, I've got millions of dollars,
money.
Yeah.
that I can use to bridge the gap to 70. Now the math is saying even more reason to do it if you can afford to do it, because that larger number from Social Security is all tax-free now, and you get the cost of living increases on it. It's really good. On top of that, those people that are saying, well, I'll take the income and I'll invest it. The investment need just bumped up, because if you take to Social Security early and say, I could do better, right? And maybe you can, but now that it's tax-free, how hard is it to do better? Because you're going to invest that money. Any gains you make are going to be taxable. So you have to overcome the tax on the gains now. Whereas if you let it roll up with Social Security, those gains are going to be tax-free. So
Interesting.
the to take it early and invest the difference is even more difficult in a world where Social Security is tax-free. But then they could say, well, I'm going to get that money now at tax-free, so I have more to invest. But again, that's the seed versus the harvest.
The gain is taxable if it's in a traditional IRA.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if it's, you just take the money from Social Security, don't pay tax on it, invest it. Now I can do better than the roll up from Social Security. Yeah, but you got to pay tax on that gain.
But can you? Isn't it like 6 or 8% at between your full retirement age and age 70?
Right. It's tough to overcome already. And then on top of that, now it's tax free. So you have to overcome even more after tax, because you might make 5-6% return.
If the law passes and makes it tax free, let's clarify.
Right. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, for those that can't afford to bridge the gap, I'm taking Social Security at 62 because I'm struggling to make ends meet. I'm going to work part-time. I don't have an IRA to pull from to delay to 70. I would go bankrupt. I couldn't pay the bills. This changing it to tax-free doesn't hurt them, right? Because now they may not have any tax on their Social Security where they may have been hit even with those low levels, but it doesn't change their need to take it early. If someone's single and they have a short life expectancy, I might be lucky if I get this age 75. Taking it early that's going to happen. You're going to take it early. Whether or not it's taxable is irrelevant. It's nice. So those that can't bridge the gap, this taxation doesn't really factor in. It doesn't really move anything.
Yeah, true. Of course, it all depends on your life expectancy, which nobody has a crystal ball, unfortunately.
Right.
This would all be so much easier if we knew how long we were going to live.
We did a show on that, Tony. We did a whole show on that.
I know we did.
We don't know how long we're going to live, but I will say this. Eliminating taxes or reducing taxes on Social Security favors the married couple.
Yeah.
Because now we have a higher survivor benefit, tax-free. So delaying your own benefit for your benefit of your spouse, because you have the higher amount, now that's tax-free. Even more juice is added to that.
Yeah,
so that's great. And a married couple, the odds of one of them living beyond the life expectancy set by Social Security Administration, let's call it 83, the odds of one of a married couple living well past 83 are a lot higher than an individual. So the delay for that person, the real value of delaying Social Security is for longevity. If you throw tax-free on top of those cost of livings for longevity, it's even more powerful. So it pushes out the benefit if you live well. Every year you live past, it just compounds because it's tax-free. So with a married couple, odds are one will outlive the other and potentially live into their 90s. So the tax-free really helps them. So it gives, I think overall, it raises the level of benefit for more people to delay, or at least makes it even more powerful to delay. But if you can't delay, you can't delay. And the other downside, the trade-off, is the legacy. And this is the big rebuttal to this, Dan. If I spend down my IRA money to live, or my other savings to live to get to 70 before I turn on Social Security, that was a very popular show we did. Should I spend down my IRA to delay Social Security? And the math suggests in the long run, it might work out. But if you die early, you're not going to know. You're not going to know if you die early. If you die early, your legacy is going to be reduced. There's the trade-off.
Yeah, because you can't leave your Social Security income to your children, but you can leave your IRA to your family, right?
So if you're bridging the gap and, I'm going to turn on Social Security at 70 and then you die at 72, your ghost will say, geez. Your kids will be like, what happened to his IRA? I thought he had $1 million in there. Now it's only 700,000. What did that do? What was he spending it on? He was delaying Social Security, which would have paid dividends had he lived. So yes, taxation wise doesn't change the fact that your legacy is going to dip.
Yeah.
However, in the long run, it might, because now you're older. Let's say you're closer to 80 and now you have tax-free income, and your spending will probably go down as you get older. So you may have extra income to then reinvest to leave to the children in the form of a legacy. So it's that little gap window that if you die early, that's the naysayers. So when you're making the decision, Tony, don't ask your kids, because they're going to say, take it early and leave me your savings.
Yeah.
So if Social Security taxes are eliminated, not taxation on money to pay for Social Security, but the taxation of Social Security is eliminated, I think it's going to favor delaying even more. Bridging the gap will still cut into the legacy, so that'll still be a factor. But overall, the delay factor is going to be even more powerful. And I think people that are thinking about it now, what people say, well, it's also going to speed up the bankruptcy of Social Security. So, if we know Social Security is going to run out of money and have a 20% haircut, then you could do the math and says it makes sense to take it early because you have that extra money. But again, whether you cut it by 20% or you eliminate taxes, it's still a longevity play. So if you have the means and you can delay and you can play the longevity game, that's not changing. It just gets exacerbated by whatever happens with the taxation or the cuts.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So I do hope that they eliminate taxes on Social Security. I mean, but as I said in the beginning, I have my doubts because I don't know if they can get that through. You know what I mean?
I would prefer them not to eliminate taxes on Social Security. I'd like to eliminate all taxes. My taxation is theft shirt. I don't have it on. But I think an easier strategic play is just to say, let's throw a cost of living or inflation adjustment amount on the existing tax law. And then it accomplishes basically the same goal. It doesn't help out the super wealthy. So
it's a great compromise.
Everyone's happy.
I like the numbers you laid out, Dan, and it's a great compromise. I know right now shirts and buttons are being printed up that says Dan Wendell for Congress to get in there and make these help these guys compromise and come up with good solutions. Somebody who knows finances and will do the math. You need to sell those on your site, the Dan Wendell for president or Dan Wendell for senator.
The other reason why I would love to see it with you, to see the taxes get removed on Social Security, is because it'll bring it to the table to say, by doing this, everyone's like, yay. By doing this, everyone will also say, well, it's going to decrease the solvency of it. So let's address that now.
Yeah.
And so we open the floodgates to
that's something you didn't mention. That's another negative is, if they tax, maybe they have more money, but are the taxes they're taking from when they tax Social Security 85% for some people, does that tax go into the Social Security Solvency Fund, or does it go into the general fund where it's
poof? Right.
It's gone.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. And it's gone.
Yeah. And it's gone.
The bottom line is it's not going to help the solvency of Social Security if we stop taxing Social Security. That's
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. They need to do something. So,
Right.
yeah.
And so that's still looming. The
Yeah.
elimination of the WEP and the GPO.
Yeah.
We've done shows on that, very popular. That didn't help the Social Security solvency at all.
No, that was a negative
So
as far as solvency.
right. And so that, people like that or hate it, but irrespective of whether they like it or not, it does increase the likelihood that Social Security is going to be running out of money sooner. So did that spark the conversation about fixing Social Security? I didn't see it. I haven't
It's
seen
weird
it.
because a big thing with Social Security is the solvency and everything they've done over the past, I don't know, 12, 15 years, and both parties is things that are generally good for people who receive Social Security, but bad for Social Security in general
Right.
because they've moved that date closer by eliminating the WEP. Now I was a proponent of eliminating the elimination provision because I love our government. They've eliminated an elimination provision. So,
Right.
but Dan, in doing so, it helps, especially our public servant,
Yeah.
teachers, policemen, government workers. So,
And just think now it'll be tax free potentially. Woo! Talk
yeah.
about a real windfall. So yeah, I think this would be a good thing. I think it would change. I think people would have to rethink it. And I think if you're thinking about what to do without Social Security now, you should factor this in. It is a potential reality, something you should consider. It may push you over the edge to delaying it at least maybe another year. You can always turn it on later. You don't have to wait till 70, but if you take it now, you take it now. You could,
Yeah.
So that's all I want to say. I think it's a good thing, and I think people will change their behavior if this happens. I hope it does, but I also hope that the whole system gets fixed. Otherwise, this is all a moot point, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, Tony. Thanks for another great show, and we'll catch. Well, I would say we've been doing this a weekly, and I was just thinking the other day, we're doing this for almost 6 years or something. We have so many shows, I've had to delete them. I've had to delete shows. I don't have enough space in my storage. But, I wonder if we could just repeat a show if people would notice. I wouldn't have as much gray, but anyway.
Yeah.
We'll catch everyone next week.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Riddle nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.